Good evening. Tonight, in keeping with our Halloween season, as per a request from our audience, I will be presenting to you a list of some of my personal favorite thriller movies. Horror movies, as you no doubt know them to be. And so, casually, conversationally, informally, let us proceed to this list. Although first I must iterate to you, these are not exactly blockbusters. They weren't box office smashes when they were first released. Not majority rules best of the best statistics, nor critically acclaimed 2 thumbs up by way of Siskel and Ebert and other cinematic critics. No. These are merely a few of my own personal favorites. Most of which you've probably already seen anyway. Some of which reveal an interesting phenomenon in the genre. I don't know why, but a number of these films, and even more, all stem from one year in particular, 1981. Again, I have no idea as to the whys and wherefores, but for whatever reason, 1981 was a year which brought forth a whole plethora of very unique, very interesting thriller movies. 1981. Fascinating. Going in no particular order, I present to you 12, with 2 extra thrown in just for good measure. We begin with 1982, Creepshow. I'm sure most of you know that this is a thriller anthology, a number of mini-stories, tales of terror presented to you from the minds of Stephen King all the way to John Carpenter, and also offering wonderful showcasings of both movie stars, but also celebrated and beloved character actors and actresses. Wonderful, enjoyable, engaging movie, not at all unlike our second film, 1985's Return of the Living Dead. Everyone and their aunt's uncle is making a zombie movie these days to such a degree that I can hardly bring myself to watch any more of them, even for evaluating these thriller movies as I do. However, Return of the Living Dead, again, not unlike Creepshow, is such an entertaining, engaging film. Both of them are, and again, this likewise formats wonderful character actors and actresses who are so very celebrated. It's also just an exciting, fun, in many ways comical thrill ride. And it also entails that sepulchral splendor of the cemetery and the mausoleum that I've always found so appealing in thriller movies. The third film on our list, from 1981, the original. These are all the originals, mind you, none of the remakes. The original, My Bloody Valentine. Not only in its own right is this simply put just a scary, scary movie, it is also incredibly graphic. As a matter of fact, when it was first released, it came perilously close to being given an X rating. Now, generally speaking, whenever we hear of an X-rated film, we naturally assume that it has something to do with sex. In this case, it is ascribed to the sheer volume of blood and violence. I think that they trimmed it through editing and they escaped that X rating and just barely got an R. But I tell you, it's a singularly scary film, very much worth the while. Number 4, from 1980, we have The Fog. John Carpenter again. This is an eerie, chilling, spooky ghost tale set on the seashore, no less. It is a very magnificent tale, very enjoyable, very suspenseful in its own way, with a wonderful tale to be reincorporated. You'll see what I mean. Number 5, This is one that managed to escape my attention over the years. It had to be pointed out to me by one of the punks out there. Likewise, from 1981, Dead and Buried. I wonder if you have ever heard of it yourself, let alone have had the pleasure of seeing it. Again, another eerie ghost tale on the seashore. And this one incorporates temporal elements. As you're watching it, keep your eyes open for any little anachronisms that might give a clue as to what's going on in this picture. Next we have An American Werewolf in London, 1981. This also is a film which more or less speaks for itself. I've already used words like engaging and enjoyable and entertaining. All of those and more apply to this film. Not to mention the suspense. Very graphic, rather gory, but really very thought-provoking and evocative of all kinds of sentiments. And on top of that, it's just a truly good film. In many ways, it's its own sort of masterpiece. Next, here again from 1981, The Fun House. I wonder how many of you have even ever heard of this one as well. The Funhouse takes place in one of those rattle-trap carnivals that get set up overnight in a supermarket parking lot or an abandoned vacant lot on the outskirts of town. The Funhouse features one of those iconic characters that stands out in the genre, the Barker. And whereas I don't want to give anything away, toward the ending, when the, as it were, villain, more to the point, the killer in this movie is unmasked, the thought-provoking elements which this conjures up, the bestial questions which come to mind, my goodness me, those are best left unaddressed here and now. I'll leave you to puzzle those out on your own when you reach the climax of that film. Next we have, from 1982, The Thing. Now, let us look at the lineage. In 1951, of course, the original black and white science fiction depiction of this story was presented to you. And then all those years later, we had a reimagining of it, The Thing, in 1982. Now, in, as it were, 2011, you likewise have a film entitled The Thing appearing. And we automatically suppose that it is a remake. I took the chance of watching this, and I am so pleased to tell you, it is not a remake. The 2011 version of The Thing is a prequel. And where it ends, in wonderful, beautiful, reincorporative cycle, it ends at the exact point where the 1982 film begins. As I say, the continuity is just perfect. Perfect. Next we have the one sleeper out of all of this. This goes all the way back to the 70s, 1972. Who or whoever who slew Auntie Roo? This is what I would call a gothic gingerbread chiller, and it features the beloved Shelley Winters. It's a magnificent fairy tale, very chilling, very thrilling, very suspenseful, and it is largely forgotten in the course of yesteryear, but absolutely worth seeing. Speaking of sleepers, our next film is from 1983, Sleepaway Camp. Now, not unlike Dead and Buried, somehow, in spite of all of my advertence, Sleepaway Camp slipped under my radar. I never had the chance to see it back there at the get-go. But over the years, again and again, whenever it came up in conversation, I always inevitably heard the same thing. Oh, the way that movie ends. Oh my God, the ending of that movie. Oh, Lord. You should see the way that movie ends. Oh, the climax, the final scene, the end of that film, the last act. Now, as I say, I never saw it in the first place. And the idea that all these decades could go by and an ending of a film, which is apparently that shocking, could not have been spoiled for me by some blabbermouth. That alone is a miracle. On top of that, the very idea that in a world where apparently there are no original ideas at all, this lends to a great interest in what in the world could be so unique in this one film from so long ago. Well, I finally had a chance to watch it. The whole thing, from beginning to end. Oh my God, the way that movie ends, jeez, did you see that? Oh, wait until you see for yourself. Oh my Lord. 1985 brings us one of those films that was released with two different titles. Phenomena, or Creepers, featuring Jennifer Connelly, last seen puzzling her way through the labyrinth. Likewise featuring Donald Pleasence. Creepers, or Phenomena, is an uncomfortable film in many ways, dealing with bugs and critters and that sort of thing. But in the broader scope, it's kind of a whodunit, with one hell of an ending when you find out who or what done it. Very much worth the watch. Lastly, on our list of 12, we have 1985, likewise, Fright Night. And Fright Night in one word is, simply put, fun. Oh, it's scary, it's suspenseful, rather gory in some respects. Has a wonderful cast, including the late Roddy McDowall. Excellent soundtrack. All of these films, incidentally, were resplendent with excellent soundtracks. The previous Creepers Phenomena I meant to mention, in addition to Jennifer Connelly and Donald Pleasence. You likewise have the collaboration of Dario Argento and Goblin serenading the mayhem in the background. But Fright Night, as I say, suburban vampire tale in modern times. Wonderful picture. I think you'll find it most enjoyable. That is the dozen. Now we have these two extras, which I submit to you, if only to illustrate that even I am up on the times and watch contemporary movies from time to time. This first film, I had the pleasure of seeing in the movie theater. Your late punk's auntie called me up and she had me come down to, I believe it was the Laurel Thirst. And she said, we're going to watch a horror movie. And we stood in line, and as we got closer to the marquee, and I could see the poster in the glass front showcase, I turned to her and I said, wait a minute. This looks like a horror comedy. You see, I'm not too crazy about horror comedies. I need to be in just the right mood to see one, and I need to know, I need to have been told ahead of time that that's what it is, so that I'll know that I'm not going to be sinking my teeth into a real deal thriller movie, a horror movie. A horror comedy, kind of a different chemistry, different formula. And she had to concede at that point, yeah, it kind of looks like it is, do you want to go? And I said, no, let's, I mean, we've already waited in line this long, we might as well see what this movie is. The name alone is unusual. Baghead? What is that? I'll tell you what it is. And the beauty of it is that it has those elements of DIY, underground, low budget, amateur level, independent films. Group of kids just getting started out. In many ways it's a film within a film within a film. And going back to the notion of what is it? It's brilliant. It's a wonderful film. It really is. It's a very neat, very entertaining, just good movie. Not only for the audience, but also for any aspiring filmmakers out there. You watch a movie like that and you realize what you yourselves might be able to go on to do. It's a very inspiring little film, it really is. And it led to other things for some of its participants, which brings us to our final film on this list. Now, there's a movie from 2004 with the same title. I'm not talking about that one, although that was a very interesting film on its own. This one is from 2015. It is entitled simply, and most appropriately, Creep. I use the word uncomfortable to describe a phenomenon, creepers, because of the bugs and the critters. Creep is uncomfortable in a way in and of its own. It is a very disquieting, very, forgive the tautology, a very uncomfortable film. The suspense is insurmountable. The elements of humor are irresistible. And here we go again. The ending of that film and the tenuous, teeth-gnashing way in which it is distended. It's something to be experienced. And experience it, I hope you will, because this brings us to the end of our list. These 14 films, by me anyway, were very much worth seeing, and absolutely will be worth my seeing again, and, as the case may be, your seeing for the very first time. I don't feel in any way boastful or overly confident when I say, you can take my word for it. These are worth the watch. Happy Halloween. Sweet dreams. Sleep tight, boars and ghouls.